So the lack of Genesis is really surprising because I was expecting Genesis to take it all.
Mm-hmm.
I blame it because Eric couldn't make it today, which is unfortunate. So, alright, so we see the start. Oh god, is that the hollow version of the Sharon?
To be honest, I can't tell.
Yeah, it is.
Interesting choice of starter, though.
What is that for the Shadow Paladin?
I think that's Full Bow Brave.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What's it do?
We'll find out in a second.
Okay. Oh, can you
The
put
gear,
up Full Bow Brave?
now, that's interesting. The gear player is actually playing poker.
Full Bow Brave?
Yeah. So clearly the gear player was expecting some sort of Link Joker matchup.
It's a Shadow Paladin. Yeah, full bow. Oh, full bow. Just type full bow.
Full bow Diablo.
Yes. Okay. So taking in Pokora has been like a Japanese trend too for like a lot of decks, just to in case like if you have a weak Link Joker matchup, Gear Chronicle does suffer from that too because if you lock a space open, then you can't do stuff like Melum or upstreams and all the other stuff that makes the whole deck work.
Not Full Bow Brave, full bow Diablo. Diablo Full Bow.
So I'm gonna open up the chat. How's everyone doing? So it's definitely Diablo
Spray.
deck. What's Death Spray do?
Death Spray is Vanguard or Rearguard Circle. I believe it's GB1. After it attacks, Counterblast 1, eat a unit, you retire a unit.
Okay, and it's a grade 3, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so his hand was definitely full of grade 3s.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that he's committed this means he probably has more ways to stride on the stride turn. He's letting the Gear Chronicle stride first. So you see that the Gear Chronicle is already at 4 damage. That means the Diablo player is trying to pressure him really hard at the start. Yeah, just to try and get the game going.
To be fair, the Shadow player is at 3, so he's not too far behind.
So an unfortunate move would be if during the drive check here, the Gear Chronicle gets a heal trigger, which would ruin the tempo that the Shadow Paladin has already set. So, like something we discussed earlier, if the Gear player is not careful and doesn't take care of his board, there's a chance that the Shadow Paladin player could potentially G-Guard into a Diablo play. So that's always something to watch out for. But it looks like he has a field that's ready to, in case anything like that happens. So he no-guards the Melum, hoping for a defensive trigger, as per usual when you play against Gear Chronicle.
The Gear player has to be very careful. If I'm looking at his field right, he might end up only with a field of just 2 units on board if he decides to go all in.
It would be the History Maker and the Erwitar, the TikTok? What would it be?
To be honest, it's going to be... The Erwitals will be gone, the TikTok will be gone. I think it's going to be 1 unit that's left. I wouldn't be able to tell you what unit he'll want to keep on board.
Okay. So I can see that one of the 2 cards that he checked through the Erwitar was the perfect card, so he's keeping that in his hand.
Let's see. Yeah. Looking at the list, he does play 1 copy of Tickaway Dragon, which would be a good unit to leave on board. Especially once he expends a couple of resources, just being able to shuffle cards back in.
On the 5th damage, you see that the Shadow player got a critical trigger. So he has some extra help for defending there. Too bad it unfortunately came a little late, but anything is good right now.
Or we just move that over there.
What's your opinion on this matchup? Who do you think has the advantage here?
Well, obviously, whoever hits the more crit triggers, obviously, it helps. But at the end of the day, it's whoever can do their bigger push first. The Diablo turn in certain situations is very strong, and, you know, the counterpart to that is the next stage push. So, you know, like I said, triggers definitely play a factor into this. If I had to bet my money on it, though, I do give it to Diablo because they have a way to just say, I win, as opposed to next stage saying, I have a chance to win.
So we see that the Gear player checked 2 triggers, 1 critical, 1 heal.
Now it'll be interesting to see if he's going to use the TikTok with the Melon play. he might opt not to on the fear of
Diablo.
Diablo.
So he's setting up for the following turn with 2 TikToks rather than using the full play out. Especially since the Shadow Paladin also had a defensive trigger, I'm sure the follow-up play might not have been as big. So he's gonna stride with the.
Yeah, he had a grade 3.
He's going into
Aura Geyser.
So Blaster, Blaster Dark Spirit. What? Or is that Blaster Blade Spirit? Blaster Dark Spirit.
Blaster Dark Spirit.
Okay. Oh, the 1-of. Okay. He didn't activate it, so it doesn't kill anything.
I believe when it's only when it's superior called
from deck,
you get to activate.
Okay.
Yeah. Definitely a good unit for Aura Geyser to eat up, considering anything can just make it blow up.
Yes. I am concerned at the lack of field that the Shadow Paladin's creating. I'm sure he just wants hand advantage to survive the following turn, but a next stage turn could potentially hurt him depending on what he drive checks. Okay, so the 2 reveal. I couldn't really see it, but I don't think there were any triggers in that check.
I believe they were just grade 1s.
Okay. So it's the perfect card. That's dark. So a 5K, a grade 3, and a critical trigger. But on the PG, it doesn't matter.
If he has one upstream or a history maker dragon, this might just be a wrap.
Yes, the double TikTok is really strong.
If the Shadow player manages to survive, he's going to have a very, very dead hand. If at all. And instead he goes for Metallica Phoenix.
Is Darkhold banned? No, right? Oh my god.
So what's the reasoning for going into a Metallica Phoenix this turn as opposed to something like a next stage?
I'm assuming he wants to try and whittle down his hand as much as possible and not essentially use up a win condition that may or may not clinch it. With Metallica Phoenix being able to just create some repeated attacks, even if they're just pokes for 11s, there's still 1 card per attack, and with the opponent being on 5 damage, he's going to commit to the defense. Plus also double TikTok really helps. So he's going to bump up probably to an upstream and a heart thump. Yeah, there's a heart thump.
Okay, so it's a history maker and a heart thump.
So he's going to history maker the Urwatal into a Melum. Get some advantage there.
Okay. What are your thoughts on these combos that Gear can do?
It's nutty. The fact that you're... I mean, that's honestly the reason why TikTok not only got limited to 2 in Japan, it also got banned as a starting Vanguard. Because the interaction between TikTok and Melum and Upstream Dragon is just too good. The fact that you're gaining card advantage by time leaping Urwatals while at the same time simultaneously building your field, when you have to hope for defensives just to be able to live through that, it's too much. So as it is right now here in the States, it's really good, especially because you can run any amounts of TikToks with it being also your starting Vanguard.
So what's the side event?
I mean, like against most multi-attack decks, isn't hoping for a defense trigger basically the way to stop aggro right now?
Correct. Correct.
What are your thoughts on that? Do you think hoping for a defensive trigger is like an optimal way to play, or should it not be that way?
If it's the only way to play, you know, what kind of option do you have? But I mean, it's the case of the game, you know.
So on the triple drive, we see a grade 2, a grade 1, and a GG. So no triggers there. But the pressure's still on with all the multi-attacks. The Shadow player is down to 1 card in hand. The Melum can only poke out G0, yeah? Okay.
So he opts not to use the TikTok, which again is also interesting. Also, he is in now the Diablo player can guaranteed stride. It doesn't matter what he has. He has the generation break too, so that's not the issue. If he has another unit, let's see. Oh, he's going for the Spectral Diablo play.
Yes, which allows him to activate Blaster Dark Diablo's effect, which is able to kill. Ooh.
Oh, that's interesting. So he's playing more than one full battle Diablo.
Well, no, it might have been the one that got spun back.
Oh, that's right.
So did he miss the Diablo proc to kill something, or was that, or is that
No,
something he can't do?
that's when you stride Phantom Blaster Diablo. You get the proc to kill
Oh, just
something.
Phantom Blaster, not
Phantom
just
Blaster
any
Diablo,
and
yeah.
not just any Diablo strike.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. So how many calls does he get off of the Spectral? He gets one call and then one additional call after the swing, right? Or is that not how it works?
No, I believe it's. I would have to look it up. Truth be told.
Can you pop up Phantom plus Spectral Blaster Diablo?
Yeah. You give me 1 second.
No, he's popping it up.
Oh, okay.
Yes, you get to search for a grade 1 after. Okay. So we'll see how the play goes.
And by eating up the full bow Diablo, he was able to search out a grade 3, thus meeting the requirements for this restand play. However, it does look like a double Uluru play. So yeah, so he's going for it. So now he's only going to drive check once.
Those are the perfect card to be safe.
Yeah. If he has one engraved to countercharge, that's even more gravy. And no triggers to be found.
So at this point, the Gear Chronicle player essentially has it in the bag.
Yeah.
Being able to go into any stride is fine. Most likely next stage to guarantee to finish.
Yeah. Yeah, this is it. This is the finishing play.
So is there anything that was essentially done wrong in this game? It feels like the Shadow Paladin player simply just didn't draw a good hand.
Yeah, I mean...
He wasn't able to do what he needed to do.
He wasn't able to do what he wanted to do, while at the same time the Gear player had everything he wanted. You know, and that's just how it rolls sometimes. So we'll see how game 2 turns out.
So you said you were curious about the starter. You said you were curious about the starter. How come? Well, why do you feel that way? And what other starter would you be using instead?
Some people play. The Knight David, the one where it counts as 2 sacks for Aura Geyser.
Right.
Some people might even play the other full bow. I think it's full bow Brave that just searches for a blaster card once you're at Generation Break. Mostly David, especially for the Aura Geyser play.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the first time in a very long time that I've seen someone play full bow Diablo. So I mean, and that ultimately comes down to just player preference. As seen with the Spectral Blaster play, it definitely set up a really good a really good column. Unfortunately, just wasn't rewarded for it.
Was there another stride you would have gone into instead?
I mean, unfortunately, he didn't have a way to get another retire, because then in that case, Diablo, Phantom Blaster Diablo would have been a really good choice. Even then, he would still have retired 1 unit and forced the opponent to sacrifice the other 2 just so he had the chance to guard. Oh no, but he didn't have the sack 3 for the requirement. Never mind. So yeah, Spectral Blaster definitely was the better option.
Okay. Alright, well, we're heading into game 2. So what can the Shadow Paladin player do besides drawing a better hand? So as it looks like we see 2 grade 1s, a perfect guard, a critical trigger.
I think part
after
of the
his
problem,
mulligan, so this looks like a really bad starting hand for the Shadow Paladin player right now.
Part of the problem was a lot of his early aggression didn't really equate to much. Yeah, he pushed him to 4 damage, but the Gear player will push back twice as hard, just using up their counterblasts and everything. He also did lose his control aspect by committing the Death Spray Dragons very early. Had he held them back, he might have had a chance to just close out the game by, Phantom Blastering him.
I think he wanted to take a chance and try to get some aggression in.
That's kind of a fun video. Oh yeah, the tag is so hard.
Yeah, it's finding the fine line between being able to apply enough pressure without committing too many resources. Between Chronojet spinning away units as well as also the repeated attacks. If you don't have anything to back you up, you're going to lose out on the advantage.
It's interesting that the Gear Chronicle player went first, but I guess that's how they decided how to roll it.
After spectating a couple games, a lot of people that lost the first game are still opting for them to not to go first, but to go second, which is really interesting. It seems that they're valuing the ability to stride first much more highly than being able to attack first.
So the Gear player is looking to go aggressive, playing the Steam Breath in the front, looking to attack an additional time this turn. He was up on the stream earlier, so he did the same thing during a game too. Would you usually go this aggressive?
If you're looking for your ideal, initially if you were looking for your ideal stride, yes, it's a perfectly good play, and he just happens to have all the Chronojets in the world.
So you just took an additional Chronojet here. So he's probably trying to think out his deck, so trying to get, oh, so what I said was correct. He was Greylock. So he got a draw trigger. He didn't want a G assist though, so put himself even further behind. But now that the Gear Chronicle player sees that, I can imagine him going much more aggressive.
Now this is an interesting choice. Again, it comes down to being able to apply the aggression, while at the same time knowing what resources to hold and what to, commit to.
I'm surprised he was able to 10k guard that. Is that a grade 2?
Bailiff.
Okay. Yeah,
Bailiff is a grade 3.
I meant.
Oh, the Vanguard.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so he was a Greylock. Okay.
Yeah.
Should have corrected that. Alright.
So he's on Vortimer Diablo, which will be interesting for this game.
Well, Vortimer gets the initial search, yeah.
Yeah.
So he's pitching the stride. It was just seeing what he's trying to go into.
That is, I believe, Aura Geyser damned.
Yes.
So he's trying to apply a little bit of field control, and he manages to kill 2 units.
That's great.
So, yeah, killing the back row units, because the grade 3s at this point are invaluable.
So because it doesn't have the 3 Aura Geyser flipped up, it just has regular number, right? No critical?
Correct. I missed it. I don't know if he flipped up an Aura Geyser as part of the cost or not. Can't really tell on this side of the screen.
Okay. So the damage is at 2 each. It looks like Shadow Paladin player has a pretty weird hand. I think his hand has at least like 4 triggers in it. And the drive check didn't really produce anything. The fact that his board is being controlled really hard, and I think he has no way to really call stuff out, is what's going to bother him this whole entire game. I think he's not really going into the pieces he really needs to get what he needs done. But fortunately, he gets a defensive trigger where he needs it.
Getting that defensive right on the first attack, very, very, very good opportunity here. Of course, with Orbital, he's just going to push on through.
So this turn is lost. I think the Gear Chronicle is just trying to get some advantage back. The Melum and the Orbital is just to get some cards and get a drive check. Hopefully pull some triggers and put them onto the Melum. If he pulls a stand, he can stand the Bailiff and try to get something out of that.
So he gets a draw trigger, so the Melon can apply some pressure once this is done.
So we get 2 of the Steam Knights that spin a card back.
Also a really popular option today. I've seen a lot of Gear Chronicle players teching that in.
Yes, this player in particular has 2 copies in his deck. So he just drive checked the 2.
Preemptively searching the Heart Thump. Which is interesting. It makes me believe that I think the other TikTok is in his hand instead of trying to superior call it through Melon. I can't really get a good view, but... Anything in the chat?
No. So this is Spectral again, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, if I remember correctly, Vortimer Diablo gives a bonus if you stride into Spectral Diablo. Spectral Blaster Diablo.
I think you call an additional, yeah? So he's trying to get an advantage right now to attacks. He's going into cards that like just continually kill his own board, but the fact that the Gear Chronicle player is at 2 damage right now, it's really hard to just try and nab a win now when the Gear Chronicle player is just slowly trying to just build his hand back up.
If I remember correctly, I believe the Vanguard got a skill from him eating the Kahadin.
Okay, so he gets 1 critical trigger on that shot. Summon into 4, no defensive triggers.
Right, I think it was an on-hit skill that you superior call 1. And superior calling Sharon is really good for it to count as 2 sacks for a blaster.
Yes. So the Vanguard currently has 1 extra critical on it. But only 1 drive check. So the power on it is not so strong, but you definitely have to guard it. I'm sure that's a no pass, otherwise he wouldn't have put so much down.
So he needs 15 to guard this.
Yes. Oh wow.
Oh no.
Oh, he got a heal?
So so he does manage to heal.
Yes. Okay. That's unfortunate for the Shadow Paladin player. The Gear was down to 1 card in hand. I'm sure it's a grade 3. It looks like he drew the stand trigger and the bailiff. Yes. So it was a grade 3. Shadow Paladin player looks like he has a good hand, but 4 cards in hand. Bailiff. Chronojet in the back row is still a good attacker. If this is like a next stage, then that Heart Bump is really good.
The Gear player has a lot of avenues open up to him. He might just try to match aggression for aggression.
So he decides to go into
Metallica Phoenix.
Yeah. Why does he keep calling it grade 2? Why does he keep calling it grade 2? So it looks like the Shadow Paladin player, according to chat, is doing some plays out of order. So we have 2 judges staring at the game right now. Either they're not knowledgeable about the deck, or something's going on here that's a little wacky. I will have to review this afterwards because I am not so familiar with a lot of the effects myself. Unfortunately, again, this is happening. I will check on it after this when we go on break.
And meanwhile, the Gear player is just trying to whittle down the Shadow player's hand. Again, opting to go for the Metallica play.
So the fact that he keeps going into the Metallica play, as opposed to next stage, which is what I'm used to back in New York, where if I'm at 4 and my hand is like moderate, a next stage generally can end the game. So, what's your opinion on going into the Metallica instead of the next stage?
I think this guy's been doing a more cautious play style, opting to whittle the opponent's hand to a certain point and then use next stage as the finisher rather than the reverse. Rather than using next stage as the whittler. Especially if your opponent randomly heals on 6 or, you know, that clutch defensive draw trigger that gets him just enough to live through your push turns. You might be valuing the next stage turn a lot more than your average player.
So the chat's saying that Spectral Blaster calls after the attack, and Kahadin gives plus 5k and only calls when the Vanguard hits. So has the Spectral player been Soul Blasting and then calling a Grade 1 before the attack swing?
Calls after the attack. Yeah, let's take a look.
Almost. So meanwhile, Shadow player is going into Diablo right now.
So he doesn't get the on-stride retire because he's not on Blaster Dark Diablo.
Right.
My thing is that's where it comes to like this tournament that we it's 6 times maybe this tournament right here.
Oh, it's supposed to be grade 3.
Like something within this niche.
Let me see. No calls after the attack, and only calls when the Vanguard hits. So the attack with the Spectral Blaster did hit, so he was able to superior call the Sharon. So as far as that's concerned, that's fine. And then
So he's swinging with Diablo right now, not activating the stack effect. So he's just going for the plus 10k grid.
So we see Rat Banana being able to spin away, search out another Hard Thump.
So the Shadow gets a heal trigger.
One more and he breaks through. And he got it. And that is bad news for the Gear Chronicle player.
Alright, so this is 1-1. Chat says there was some shady things going on with the Spectral... with the other Spectral Stride, so I'm going to look into that. Probably will review it whenever you watch the video.
I'm sorry. Alright, this is when I'm going to get cooked so easily. 16.
So right now the matchup being 1-1, it's going to be very interesting to see how the tide of each game is going to go. If I personally had to make a prediction, with it being 1-1, honestly, my vote is going to go to the Gear Chronicle player. Now having looked at each deck, 2 games post fact, the Gear Chronicle player definitely has a stronger form of control, as in comparison to the Shadow player. The Shadow player isn't going to be able to steal a game off of the Spectral Diablo, Phantom Blaster Stride.
Okay.
So with that being the case, and also it seems like he's not able to commit enough of a field to be able to activate that effect.
Okay. So after looking at the card again, yes, the Soul Blast 1 part is not where he's able to call the unit, only after the swing. So we'll have to see if he does it again, then I will have to say something, because, yeah, there's way too much happening. There's way too much stuff happening when it shouldn't be, and it's unfortunate that misplays and stuff like this happen in such a way. I'm actually curious at what the Diablo Grade 3 lineup is to be able to fit the Death Spray.
Sprays.
So he plays 4 Blaster Dark Diablo, 2 Vortimer, and 2 Death Sprays. Is the Death Spray really that important to include 2 copies of? Or would you rather go 4-4 with the Vortimer and the Blaster Dark Diablo?
It's not so much that the Death Spray is important, it's so much that the Vortimer Diablo is not that important to have to play 4 of. The Death Spray gives you a little bit more of a control aspect when you have to commit it to Rearguard Circle. Being able to eat one of your units and then being able to blow up one of your opponent's units, depending on the matchups, it can be critical. If you're versing against Genesis that has Wiseman on board, if you're facing Gears that has a TikTok on board, or like some of the other matchups, like for example, Royal Paladin, if you have to blow up a key card, like a Blaster Blade or something like that, being able to have that the option to have that control factor is really good.
Okay.
And then also having 4 Vortimer Diablos, I personally don't think it's necessary. If you want consistency, maybe, but other than that, Blaster Dark is a good enough standalone Vanguard, and that's why that one's at the 4 copy slot.
Okay. So the Gear Chronicle player had to ride one of the Melums and got a critical trigger on the first check. The Shadow Paladin player got a defensive draw, so it bounced out the critical, and he just checked the heal, so it's great. So he rides an upstream. So we see that the Gear Chronicle players today had to ride Melum and upstream a lot, which is unfortunate. But because of how much they toolbox, they're still able to find pretty much exactly what they need most of the time.
One of the key things that can affect matchups is how many copies of cards that you're actually playing in the Gear Chronicle deck.
So we see that the Shadow Paladin player has decided to G-assist now. After another critical from the Gear Chronicle player, there's no way that he can hold back any further.
I don't think he actually got a grade 2 off of that.
No, he was able to find it.
Oh, he did find one?
Yes. So he's deciding what to throw away now.
Oh no, he did not find one.
I saw him add a card to hand, I feel, but I might have been wrong, I guess.
Not really, it's going in order. It's an actual attack.
The double Sharon play is also very interesting.
How so?
If he somehow manages to, if he doesn't necessarily have to G-assist, having double Sharon on board is going to be very strong for the turns, for the later turns down the road. Aura Geyser play, Aura Geyser Damned. So even like if let's say, just trying to think of different situations, but yeah, having them on board early is going to be a very good advantage for the Shadow player, even if one gets spun away by the Gear Chronicle player.
Well, so the Gear Chronicle player right now has committed everything to board, including the heart bumps. Just to get some more attacks in, draw some cards. It's got a heal trigger, which will set back the Shadow Mountain player even more.
See
and
now,
another draw and another trigger.
One thing I do want to point out, and this is the first time that we're seeing it in this match, he does have the Tickaway Dragon on board.
So he's just dissing again.
So there's the grade 2, finally. But back to mentioning about the Tickaway Dragon, that's going to be very interesting, especially because of the fact that he just healed away a Melum. So being able to put that in the grave for your time leaping combos later and being able to put it back is going to be very good for the Gear Chronicle player, especially due to the fact that he rode both a Melum and an upstream. He is playing 4 of each in the main deck, but damage checking them and riding them is going to hurt him later on down the road, except now with the Tickaway Dragon.
So he's decided to throw away Seabreeze and one of the Shadow Paladin G-Guards.
Whoever ordered Domino's Pizza, your pizza is here.
So it looks like he's going to throw away the critical and I think a Death Spray.
I'm gonna take your place. I'm about to put Get out, Fred.
So he swings for 14 at the Vanguard. Is this a time where you would want to swing at the Vanguard, or would you try to take care of that Bailiff?
Well, he can't Sabreeze due to the fact that he did ride a grade 2. Honestly, the bailiff right now, without generation break, is a grade 3 vanilla 11K. The main priority right now is just trying to push those extra points of damage in.
So he's going to commit a Melon, which most likely means he has another Melon in hand to use. He has to throw away heal trigger early, so he can't G-guard with it later on.
Leave my avatars alone.
He's holding a perfect guard, which is probably what he's going to save to use on this Chronojet.
So that's 3, I believe that was 3 heart thumps that have gone into soul already.
Yes, that's a stand trigger, so he's going to be able to stand the bailiff.
Yeah, what about Lord?
So it's 16 to Vanguard, he'll need a 10k, which he has the perfect guard once more. He was holding way perfect guards in his hand.
That's going to hurt a lot.
So he drew into a Blaster Diablo. He's going to stride. Which stride would you go into at this point?
He's going to go into Damned.
Yes.
My first instinct, honestly, might have been to go into regular Aura Geyser.
To try to grab hand advantage back?
Yeah, because you know exactly what's coming at this point.
Okay, so he's going to sacrifice those two. He reveals... Was that 2 grade 3s?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that is rough.
Alright. So the Gear Chronicle player should have enough in hand from all the previous twin drives. So he should be fine to guard these attacks. Okay. So you check the heal trigger. Grade 1 and another grade 2. So he's attacking the Melon, so he's going to go to try and get rid of combo pieces. I don't know if it's too late or not at this point, but being able to do that is fine. The fact that, he's going to
If he has a Dismal, okay, well, he's going to go for the Uluru, but still good enough.
Uluru is fine because he wants to shuffle in more of the original pieces back in. I think he did not send a heal trigger this time. I think he sent an offensive trigger back so he can try to end the game.
Just watch him playing. Just mimic it.
With the Gear player knowing what's exactly in the Shadow Power player's hand, I'm sure it should be pretty easy to try and steal the game from here.
Now, what's going to be really interesting is just talking about the future a little bit. Let me see, it's October now. I forget if it comes out this month or next month, but all of the Gear Chronicle support.
That's going to be next month.
Yeah, the Chronojet deck, as we see it right now, in my opinion, is just going to get infinitely stronger. Even if it's just being able to run the second Chronojet, which, as an alternate Vanguard, is still very strong, even on the next stage play. And then, of course, their new boss monster, Gear Groovy, which is just going to open up the door for nutty possibilities. Basically, next stage plus X. So, if you want to go for the Ragna Clock, just add a crit onto your next stage play. If you want some, offensive or defensive advantage with Huanlong, I think it's called. Or if you want to be the cheeky guy and just go for the Cronus command play, Gear Groovy is definitely something to be concerned about. And even just Chronojet G and all the tech options that they're going to be able to just implement into the deck. So, once the new support comes out, cards like Bailiff, some players might even only opt to run like 1 GG just to be able to fit some other tech pieces in.
I mean, GG's already a 1 most of the time in most people's decks, so it's not much of a change. The Shadow Pound player got 1 defensive trigger on the attack that he took from the rear guard, but with only, I believe, 1 or 2 cards left, it must be hard to guard everything else coming out. So, unless the Shadow Paladin player gets a heal trigger, this game is pretty much over.
So yeah, so he's gonna proc the Tickaway Dragon. Oh no, I'm sorry, he's procking Urwatal. Yeah, you can see here, he's just gonna keep going. It looks like the judge is pointing out a certain problem.
He must have forgotten to counterblast for Clockwork. I mean, History Maker.
This is what it gets.
It's interesting how Bushiroad's trend to try and make stand triggers viable again by giving them extremely powerful effects in comparison to just some of the other cards. A couple things to note, and you as the Angel player can relate. Things like Refros, Orwatal, the Neo Nectar stand trigger that the name escapes me that created the infinite, well, I believe it was a near infinite loop. And then now also with Wiseman. It's very interesting how they're trying to push stand triggers, but they're not really sure how to scale them properly. So it's that fine line, and that's the game.
Gear takes a 2-0. 2-1 actually.
2-1.
Yeah. So Gear took a 2-1. Gears took a 2-1. Okay. So what do we learn from that match?
You don't necessarily need next stage to win. I think would be a key detail.
Right. Usually multi-attacks is a strong reason for a lot of decks because a lot of pressure is really hard to handle. Poke attacks are becoming the new trend. Everyone's basically becoming like some kind of Aqua Force variant.